Peace. Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. Welcome to the War on Gaza report. We're here every single night giving you the latest updates about what's happening in Israel's war on the Palestinian people, and specifically on the war in Gaza. Today, of course, is day 222. It is also Nekba Day. It's the commemoration, tragic commemoration of the 76th year after the state of Israel was launched through the expulsion of more than 750,000 Palestinian people. But today, the Nekba isn't just distant memory. The Nekba is a lived reality as we're watching people in the Gaza Strip right now be pushed out, dispossessed, depopulated, killed, ethnically cleansed throughout the region. And this is incredibly important for us to talk about, incredibly important for us to keep track of. Don't worry, C-Shada, we live. And so we're going to continue the conversation. We're going to keep pushing. We're going to continue to give you all the information that mainstream media refuses to give. We're going to cover all the angles that corporate outlets don't give you access to. And we're going to begin with the numbers. As of today, at least 35,233 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since October 7th. Also, at least 79,141 have been wounded in Israeli attacks on Gaza since October 7th. And of course, the death toll in Israel from Hamas's attack stands at 1,139, with dozens of people still held captive. Those numbers are reflective of nearly 7 months of war. More than 7 months of war, excuse me. They're also reflective of a particularly deadly moment right now. Yesterday, we had the conclusion of a 24-hour period where more than 80, I believe there was 86 or 87 Palestinian people have been killed. And those numbers continue to climb. Yesterday in the north, we saw deadly battles raging with Palestinian armed groups attacking invading Israeli troops in small arms ambushes and with rocket fire and IEDs, or improvised explosive devices. Now, those attempts at resistance from the Palestinian armed groups are a direct response to an intensified battle in the north. You know, for weeks now, the north has been more the site of dehydration and starvation. It's been a looming famine there. It's been a lot of pressure on Palestinian people, but the pressure has been largely, although certainly not exclusively, through the humanitarian abandonment in the north. And we saw much of the physical violence in the south, in places like Rafah, and also in the center in Gaza City and other places where hospitals like Al-Shifa and Nasser were the sites of extraordinary levels of violence. And of course, we found mass graves with hundreds of dead Palestinians inside of them in those regions. But now we're beginning to see the north intensifying violence. The south obviously is in a very vulnerable position, which we'll continue to talk about in a moment. And of course, tonight on Night School, we'll be talking about it thoroughly. So if you, by the way, after the Gaza report, please make sure you check out Night School, because tonight we are joined by George Bisharat, who is a professor of law. He's also a Middle East scholar and an anthropologist. He is one of the most interesting and smart and engaging voices on Palestine in America today. And so it's really important that we bring him up and that we talk to him in just a few minutes over in Night School. But in the meantime, I want to move to another piece of this story in Gaza. International Rescue Committee, the IRC, says that the, quote, scale of the crisis defies imagination in southern Gaza. And they, of course, are referring to Israeli ground forces invading Rafah, and we seeing mass displacement, leaving people in need of food and water and even sanitation. Netanyahu's commitment to invading Rafah is unsurprising given his history and given the influence of the far right in his cabinet. But at the human level, at the scale of decency and what's reasonable and safe and fair and humane, it's implausible that Israel will be waging a war in Rafah or a ground invasion in Rafah, given the humanitarian stakes attached to it. But the Netanyahu cabinet seems unfazed by that. In fact, a major fissure in Israel's war cabinet is being exposed right now, with Defense Minister Yoav Gallant challenging Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his sort of unspecified, to use their language, unspecified plans for post-war Gaza. People are talking about reoccupying Gaza. There are literally debates about reoccupying Gaza, talking about annexing it fully, displacing all the Palestinians. There's lots of conversations, but none of them rest upon a fundamental belief or commitment to Palestinian self-determination. So that's that. Anyway, tensions continue to escalate between Egypt and Israel, with reports suggesting that Cairo is contemplating downgrading relations because of the attack on Rafah. Israel spent a very long time curating and managing its relationships with Jordan and Egypt, these neighboring countries. So much so that, much of the Arab world, certainly much of the pro-Palestinian community, has been deeply critical of the Jordanian kingdom, and as well as Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in Egypt. But Egypt in particular, although I think Jordan is in the same boat at this point, has been very vocal at this stage. They've been very clear in saying what's happening in Rafah is a bridge too far. It's not surprising that Egypt joined South Africa in its case, echoing claims of genocide in The Hague. That's not a good sign for Egypt. I'm sorry, that's not a good sign for Israel. I mentioned today was an important day. It's a commemoration of the Nakba, and as is the case in recent years, refugees in Beirut had a rally to commemorate the anniversary of the Nakba of 1948. You saw many Lebanese or Palestinian refugees in Lebanon, in Beirut, speaking up and speaking out. We also got an announcement today from the World Food Program saying that any further escalation in Israel's incursion into Gaza's Rafah city, quote, could precipitate a humanitarian catastrophe and bring aid operations to a complete standstill. They're basically saying that food is going to run out in a matter of days. This is the crisis that we're dealing with, and we have a lot more to cover and a lot more to say about it, but I don't want us to be late for night school. So what we're going to do, I want to thank you all for watching the War on Gaza report. That is the report for today, but please hit the like button before you go. It's the only way that independent media can survive in this mainstream corporate universe. And then I want you to head directly over to night school, where again, I'll have George Basharat on, who will break all this down. We're going to give you a full history of Palestine. We're going to give you a full analysis of what's going on. We're going to break this thing down so that it will consistently and forever be broke. You ain't got to worry about that, family. So stay here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're so inclined, hit the join button. We'll be back with more in just a second.